Welcome back to the Olympus Report, demigods, monsters, and gods alike. Strong, a talented archer, and can transform into a dragon? What can't this demigod do? Here's a character breakdown. Frank is a teenage boy of Chinese descent with a large and stocky frame. He has a babyish face with brown eyes and close-cropped black hair. After being given the blessing of Mars in the House of Hades, Frank's appearance changed dramatically. He became taller and he lost his babyish face, becoming even more handsome. His body became stronger and more imposing as his shoulders became broader and more muscular. Frank Zhang is a Roman demigod, the son of Mars and Emily Zhang, as well as a legacy of Poseidon. Frank is one of the 7 demigods mentioned in the Prophecy of 7 and is a current male praetor of the 12th Legion Fulminata. He is currently in a relationship with fellow praetor Hazel Levesque. Frank is very kind and a very good friend and is willing to give anyone a chance. Due to his past, he is unwilling to judge people and was one of the only people at Camp Jupiter not scared of Nico. Frank is insanely loyal to his friends and cares about them deeply. However, because Frank is a son of Mars, he does have some anger and rage inside of him. Frank can get very angry and irritated sometimes. We can see this after his mom died and he destroyed his grandmother's china. Frank used to be very self-conscious due to being bullied as a young child. He had self-hatred and low self-esteem, made worse by when he went to Camp Jupiter and was thought unworthy to be a part of the Legion. However, this changes and Frank's self-esteem begins to grow throughout the series, especially after he got the blessing of Ares. He became more confident in his appearance, he became more bold and began to take risks. On Frank's mother's side, he is a descendant of Percy, who was a grandson of Poseidon and a member of the Argonauts, hence making him a legacy of Poseidon. His whole family was blessed by the god with the power to shift into any kind of animal, mythical or living. In the absence of his immortal father, Frank's grandmother helped raise him after his mother died in a military accident in Afghanistan. Frank's ancestral gift, combined with the powers he inherited from his divine parent, made Frank extremely dangerously powerful, and it was decreed that he would have a short life. During the night of his birth, Juno appeared to his family and pointed to a piece of timber in the hearth, warning that if it burned up entirely, Frank would also die. On the day of his mother's funeral, Frank's grandmother informed him of their family history and told him that he is a son of a Roman god. She explained that his life force was tied to a piece of wood, which she gave him and told him to keep safe. Frank would now obsess over this piece of wood. His grandmother told him he would soon have to leave and make the journey to Camp Jupiter. Lufa and her wolf pack soon arrived, and he went through the usual process of proving his strength at the Wolf Manor. Frank arrived at Camp Jupiter about a month after Jason Grace disappeared, and was still on probatio when Percy Jackson arrived. When Frank arrived at Camp Jupiter, his grandmother instructed him to go to the praetor and tell her that his great-grandfather was Shun Lun, and to beg for forgiveness for what Shun Lun did. It was later revealed that he created an earthquake that accidentally almost destroyed the entire camp. When Frank arrived, he told Raina. Raina told Frank that she judged people by their own merits, not what their ancestors did. However, she did say not to mention this to any other campers. However, it really didn't matter. Frank's start at Camp Jupiter didn't go so great. He was often a klutz and caused many issues. Frank was proficient at archery, something the Legion didn't really prioritize, so he stood out. Frank started in the 5th cohort, the lowest of the cohorts, believed to be cursed ever since the 5th went on a quest to Alaska and lost the Legion's Imperial Gold Eagle. Things would change for Frank, however, when Percy Jackson shows up. With Percy and Hazel Levesque, Frank would help free the god Thanatos and retrieve the Legion's eagle and help stop an invasion on camp. He was rewarded with the rank of Centurion. Frank would then go on to be one of the 7 demigods of the prophecy and help defeat the primordial goddess Gaia. Along the way, Frank receives the blessing of Ares and becomes a praetor of the Legion, promoted by Jason during the battle in the House of Hades. Frank then helps Apollo defeat Caligula and Commodus and once again saves Camp Jupiter. During this battle, Frank seemingly sacrifices himself, his firewood burning up, but miraculously Frank survives. Frank lives happily currently at Camp Jupiter, where he and Hazel are the current praetors of the Legion. Frank, like most demigods, has a wider range of abilities, but is surprisingly not dyslexic and not ADHD. Latin. Frank can speak and understand Latin. Leadership. Despite having poor self-esteem at the start, Frank is shown to be an amazing leader. Enhanced durability. Frank is stronger than the average mortal. Enhanced strength. Being a demigod, especially a demigod son of Mars, Frank is extremely strong. Enhanced agility. Like most demigods, Frank is pretty agile, but was a bit of a klutz early on. Being a son of the war god, Frank is more fit for battle than most demigods. His demigod abilities include telekinesis. As a son of Mars, he is an expert with all weapons. Archery. Frank's weapon of choice is a bow and arrow. Swordsmanship. Though he does not often fight with a sword, Frank being a son of the war god, he is a very skilled swordsman. Fighting skills. Frank is a naturally skilled fighter. Tactician. Frank has been shown to have great skill in battle, planning, and leadership. Necromancy. Limited. Frank can control the dead ghosts and skeletons of ancient Roman legionnaires. Blessing of Mars. Frank is enveloped in red light that gives him superhuman strength. But his powers don't stop there. Being a legacy of Neptune, he may not have control over water like Percy, but he has one very specific power: shape-shifting. Frank has the ability to change into any animal he wishes, mythical or real. Frank, like most demigods, has some weapons and magical items to help him out on his quests. Frank's spear, a gift from Mars. The spear is tipped with a dragon tooth, allowing Frank to summon a zombie. The spear, however, only has 3 charges. Burn stick, formally. Because Frank is too powerful, being the son of Mars and a descendant of Poseidon, Frank's life is connected to a piece of wood. Fireproof bag. Made by Calypso at Leo's request, it was given to the son of Mars to protect his firewood. Frank's bow. Frank has had several bows throughout his journeys. Frank, while starting off shy and clumsy, really grows into his leadership role, finding the perfect balance between compassionate and strict. Frank has many fantastic moments that depict this. Freeing Thanatos, receiving the blessing of Ares, and leading in the House of Hades. But it all leads up to one final decision. In the Trials of Apollo, we come to see just how much of a true leader Frank has become. People who made fun of him when he arrived at Camp Jupiter now look up to him. Frank's hero moment comes when he takes down one of the worst humans to ever live, Caligula. Frank uses his firewood essentially as a match and blows up a tunnel with him and the Emperor in it. Frank, like Jason, puts the safety of others over his own life. And that's what makes him a hero. Frank states, "If I'm going to burn, I might as well burn bright." In this moment, Frank lets go of his fear of dying, no longer being controlled by his stick. Frank will make his own decisions. When Frank says this, he fully accepted his role as a leader, and if that meant dying, so be it. But miraculously, Frank survives. And I still don't know why, but I think the gods decided to cut him some slack, realizing that Frank still had too much good left to do in life. Did I leave out anything important about Frank? Let me know down in the comments below. But until next time, I'm signing off, and please, as always, stay safe.